The Spanish Influenza Pandemic of 1918 by Jewell Harvey. Read for you by Adam N. Early in September 1918, the United States was invaded by a scourge of highly infectious and fatal disease, which spread with rapidity throughout the country. It was pandemic in its nature, and partook of many of the characteristics of influenza, grippe, and pneumonia. No one seemed to know much about the disease or its treatment, and medical science and public health agencies were alike unprepared to cope with it. About all that could be done at the start was to adopt and attempt to enforce drastic regulations to minimize contagion. But even in the view of these regulations, and when the plague had burst forth in all its widespread malignity, the country at large seemed slow to awaken to the enormity of the peril which it faced. It certainly was a disconcerting fact that at the very time when vast numbers of people in widely distributed localities had organized themselves through the Red Cross and other well-known and efficient mediums to fight disease and prevent suffering and death, we should be smitten with a visitation which caused more casualties and deaths among the peaceful citizens in the homeland than the deadly missiles and poisonous gases of the enemy effected among the American expeditionary forces overseas in the Great World War. From September 9th to November 9th, according to the reports received by the Federal Census Bureau from 46 large cities in the United States, having a combined population of 23 million souls, there was a total of 82,306 deaths attributed to the scourge. In a similar period of time, in the same communities, the normal number of deaths due to influenza and pneumonia would have been about 4,000. In the latter part of September, 85,000 cases in Massachusetts alone were reported, and by the first week in October, the disease was prevalent in nearly all sections of the United States. 23 states, from Massachusetts in the east to California in the west, and from Florida in the southeast to Washington in the northwest, were experiencing the mysterious malady. More than 14,000 cases in the military camps of the country were reported to the Office of the Surgeon General of the Army within one period of 24 hours. Up to January 4th, 1919, according to the Census Bureau, the mortality due to the fatal disease was 115,258 in 46 cities of the United States, containing 1/5 of the population of the country. While according to statistics submitted to the Actuarial Society of America in July 1919, 450,000 deaths occurred in the United States in the autumn and early winter of 1918 due to this pandemic disease, which wrought its greatest havoc among infants and persons in adult working life. The mortality of males was greater than that of females, while the highest mortality caused by the disease affected persons of the wage-earning class, especially those situated in the lowest economic range. The origin or source of the disease was unknown. Some experts looked upon it as simply a variety of well-known disease prevalent, with occasional outbreaks of violence for hundreds of years. Others attempted to identify it with a form of pneumonic plague that has raged in parts of China for a number of years past, China and its neighboring lands in Asia forming a vast storehouse of infection from which great epidemics have swept in waves across and around the globe. It is an historic fact, in the early part of 1917, about 200,000 coolies collected from the southern part of China, where the pneumonic plague had raged for 6 or 7 years, were sent to France as laborers, and with them went the germs of the pneumonic plague. Many of these coolies were captured by the Germans in the spring of 1918, hence the outbreak of the plague at that time in the German army, where it is said to have been very serious in its deadly character. There were some writers of the press who declared that the disease had been brought into this country in German submarine boats, but when it was realized that, like the scourge of the Middle Ages, it was sweeping through Europe, no part of which civilized or barbarian was exempt, it was called by many experts a byproduct of the World War. The manner of the pandemic's appearance in different countries indicated that the germs of the disease had been conveyed thither by the currents of the air. Therefore, the theory was broached that the poison gases, with which many sectors of the fighting area in Europe and Asia were drenched, were carried by the winds in every direction, causing the outbreak of the pandemic in England, Germany, France, Spain, Australia, Africa, and Asia, as well as in North America and some of the South American countries. The disease took its deadly toll.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?